I've worked with older adults for most of my professional life in hospitals, in private homes, in hospice wards, and yes, inside nursing homes. Over the years, I've sat beside more beds than I can count. I've held trembling hands, listened to stories told for the 5th time that day, and watched silence stretch longer than it should in rooms too quiet for a heart still beating. There's something I want to say gently but clearly. Nursing homes are not always what people imagine, especially after 80. Most families picture safety. They think about structure, scheduled meals, trained caregivers. They imagine their loved one being looked after, perhaps even thriving with others their age. And sometimes that happens. But more often than people realize, something else takes place. Quiet changes, subtle losses, and a kind of loneliness that creeps in even when surrounded by care. I'm not here to accuse or alarm. I'm here to offer what I've witnessed, and what many of my colleagues, nurses, and even residents themselves have quietly shared over time. One of the first things to understand is how fast the emotional tone of a person can shift once they've moved into a nursing facility. It isn't just about new surroundings. It's about what those surroundings represent. A woman named Clara, 84 years old, moved into the facility where I was doing therapeutic visits twice a week. Before that, she had lived with her daughter for almost 10 years. She didn't drive anymore, and her memory wasn't what it used to be, but she still made breakfast every morning and folded laundry the way she liked it. After her move, I visited her on her 2nd week there. She greeted me with a flat smile. "Everything's fine," she said. But when I sat with her, she kept glancing toward the door. Her fingers tugged the sleeve of her cardigan. "Are they coming today?" she asked, referring to her family. "I thought they'd be here," she asked 3 more times in 20 minutes. Clara wasn't upset. Not exactly, but there was a soft kind of sorrow in her voice, the kind that comes when your world shifts, and you're not sure anyone noticed. This is a common emotional state I've seen. Disorientation mixed with a polite face. Many elders feel they have to adjust quickly, quietly. They don't want to be a burden. They don't want their children to feel guilty. So they say, "I'm fine," even when they're confused, unsettled, or scared. It doesn't mean they aren't trying. It means they don't know how to name what they're feeling, or they worry it won't make a difference if they do. That's one of the first truths I wish families knew. Adjusting to a nursing home is not just logistical. It's spiritual. You're asking someone to let go of their rhythm, their quiet habits, their control. And control at that age is often the last thing they feel they still own. Another story comes from a nurse I've known for years. Her name's Anita. She's worked in long-term care for over 3 decades. She once told me something I never forgot. You can give someone the right medication, keep them fed, change their bedding on time, and they can still wither. Not from disease, but from the feeling that they've been placed somewhere, not chosen. That distinction, placed versus chosen, matters more than we think. Many elders tell me the same thing in different words, that they feel spoken about more than spoken to, that the decisions made for them, even with good intentions, leave them feeling like passengers in their own lives. Sometimes it shows in small ways. They stop requesting things. They stop choosing from the meal list. They say, "Whatever's easiest." Sometimes they just grow quiet. We often mistake this silence for peace. But I've come to learn that silence, in a nursing home, can mean many things. Resignation, fear, or simply a heart growing quieter from lack of being heard. I remember a man named Robert, a retired science teacher, sharp as a tack, even at 86. His family chose a reputable facility for him. Good staff, clean hallways, a pleasant garden. But Robert missed making his own tea. "I know it sounds silly," he told me once, "but I used to warm the cup first. Just a bit of water before pouring the tea in. They don't do that here. Everything's efficient." He smiled when he said it, but his eyes didn't. That small detail, the warm teacup, was about more than tea. It was about memory, comfort, identity. When routines are replaced with systems, something delicate gets lost. The intimacy of choice. And the older someone gets, the more these small rituals become sacred. Families often ask what they can do, how they can help someone feel less displaced after moving into a nursing home. And while every case is different, here's what I often suggest. Let them keep deciding, even if it's small, which sweater to wear, what music to play, whether to sit by the window or near the door. Offer presence instead of solutions. You don't have to fix their sadness. You just have to sit with it. Let them know it's allowed. Ask about before. Stories about when I was younger are not nostalgia. They're anchors. If we want to care for someone well after 80, we have to remember, care is not just functional. It's relational. It's in the eye contact, the unhurried visit, the quiet cup of tea warmed the right way. Sometimes what hurts most isn't what happens inside the nursing home. It's what stops happening outside of it. I've seen it too many times to count. The first few weeks, the visits are regular. Children drop by after work. Grandkids come on weekends. Everyone's still adjusting, still present. There's a sense of guilt, maybe even relief, but also hope. But slowly, the rhythm changes. I remember one woman, Eleanor, 91, small and sharp-eyed, with a love for crossword puzzles and Frank Sinatra. When she first arrived, her daughter came every other day. They brought muffins, played music, did puzzles together. By the third month, it was once a week. Then it was, I'll try for next weekend. Then it was phone calls. Then, quiet. I asked Eleanor once if she missed her daughter. She smiled and said, "Of course not, honey. She's busy." Then she turned back to her puzzle and didn't speak again for the rest of the hour. It wasn't anger in her voice. It was something softer. A quiet understanding that she'd been moved down the list, not out of cruelty but convenience. That's how it often happens. Not with big betrayals, with small omissions. The world outside keeps spinning, and the person inside the nursing home feels like they've slipped slightly out of orbit. I don't say this to blame anyone. I know most families mean well. Life is full, jobs are demanding, children need attention. Distance becomes a factor. But if you have someone you love inside a facility, especially after 80, remember this, they are counting days in a different way than you. To you, a missed Sunday might be a small thing. To them, it might be the only thing on their calendar. The structure of a nursing home keeps people alive. But it is the presence of others that helps them feel like they're still living. One nurse I worked with, Marcus, a quiet man with the gentlest hands I've ever seen, told me something once during a break. He said, "Most of them don't miss their homes. They miss being remembered." There's a subtle but important difference there. Home can be replaced. People can adapt. But the feeling of being remembered, that's what roots someone. When visits stop, people don't just get lonely. They start to disappear from their own stories. You can see it in the way they speak less. The way they no longer ask for their favorite music. The way they start saying, anything's fine, even when it isn't. This isn't depression, always. Sometimes it's just emotional erosion, the slow wearing away of maturing. I once sat with a man named Harold. He'd been a musician, played saxophone for 40 years in a local jazz band. Sharp dresser, big laugh. I asked if he ever played anymore. He shook his head and said, "No one to play for." He didn't say it sadly. He said it factually, like stating the weather. That's what happens often after 80. People don't complain. They adjust. And sometimes the adjustment looks like giving up. But there are ways to keep someone anchored, even when you can't be there every day. Mail still matters. A real letter, a photo, a drawing from a grandchild. These are more than paper. They are physical proof of being remembered. Phone calls are good, but they shouldn't be rushed. Try asking, "What did you notice today?" instead of, "How are you?" It opens something more personal. And if you visit even once a month, try not to fill the time with updates about yourself. Ask about their past. What song they used to dance to. What recipe they wish someone in the family would learn. In my experience, the elders who hold on the longest aren't always the ones with the best medical care. They're the ones who still feel woven into the fabric of someone else's life. And here's something else many don't realize. In nursing homes, birthdays start to shrink. Holidays feel quieter. And time gets measured more by staff schedules than family calendars. Which means the ordinary days, the non-holiday visits, become the most sacred. Because they say, I came not because I had to, but because I wanted to. If you're still here, feel free to leave your thoughts below. I read each one with care. One of the things people don't talk about, or maybe don't fully understand, is how much being in a nursing home can change a person's sense of agency. And by agency, I don't just mean the ability to make decisions. I mean the feeling of owning your own life. After 80, that sense of ownership is precious. It's one of the few things left that still feels like yours, your rhythm, your choices, your routines. When that slips, even gently, something inside a person goes quiet. Let me tell you about Edna. She was 87 when I met her. Fiercely independent even after a minor stroke. She could walk with a cane, remembered all her medications, and kept a tidy little notebook with daily reminders she'd written in blue ink. Always blue, never black. Her daughter, out of concern, convinced her to move into assisted living after a small fall. Just until we're sure you're safe, she said. 3 months in, Edna stopped using the notebook. When I asked her why, she shrugged. They tell me what to do now, she said. No point in writing it down. I looked at her. This woman who had lived alone for nearly 30 years, traveled to Ireland in her 60s, baked birthday cakes from memory. Now passively waiting to be told what to wear, when to eat, when it was okay to go outside. It wasn't that the staff was unkind. They were efficient, respectful, trained. But the system had taken over. Edna didn't lose her memory. She lost her authority. This happens more often than anyone wants to admit. Not because of bad intentions, but because institutions are designed for order, not individuality. And order, over time, makes people easier to manage. You begin to see it in the subtle ways elders stop participating in their own lives. They stop asking for alternatives at meals. They wait to be told when it's okay to shower. They hesitate before standing, unsure if they should or if they need permission. Some families interpret this as decline. She's not herself anymore, they say, but I've come to believe that more often than not, it's not memory loss, it's identity fatigue. Because when you are constantly being adjusted, nudged into schedules, corrected on small habits, reminded what's allowed and what isn't, your soul begins to fold inward. It doesn't scream, it just grows smaller. I remember a man named Lewis. He was 90, had been a mail carrier for 40 years. Walked miles a day in every kind of weather. He came to the facility after his arthritis made stairs impossible. The first week, he tried walking the hallway loop every morning. He wore his old work shoes, even though the staff joked he should switch to slippers. By the 3rd week, he stayed in his room more. Said the hallway was too crowded. By the 2nd month, he was using a wheelchair, even though he didn't medically need one full-time. When I asked him why, he said, "It's just easier. I don't want to bother anyone." But it wasn't about ease. It was about erosion. We think independence is about physical ability. But it's also emotional, the quiet confidence that you can still decide how to live your day. When you take that away, slowly, quietly, with routine and regulation, it doesn't always spark resistance. Sometimes it sparks surrender. That's the danger. Not confrontation, not rebellion, just giving up. This is why it matters so much for staff, for families, for anyone involved to keep asking, what would you like? Not just, what do you need? Give choices, even small ones. Let someone choose their sweater, their seat by the window, their tea or coffee. And don't correct every detail. If someone wants to fold their napkin 3 times before eating, let them. If they take longer to butter their bread, sit with them. The speed of care is not more important than the dignity of living. It's also worth remembering this. Elders who feel respected, not just cared for, but respected, tend to stay mentally sharper longer. Not because of crossword puzzles or memory games, but because when someone feels like their voice still matters, they keep using it. There's strength in being asked, "What do you think?" There's healing in not being interrupted. And there's a deep, grounding power in being treated as a full person, not a fragile one. Even after 80, there's something else I've seen. Something more difficult to name, but unmistakable once you've witnessed it enough. It's the slow fade of purpose. You won't find it listed in any medical chart. There's no blood test for it. But after 80, purpose becomes as vital as air, and just as fragile when taken for granted. In the early weeks, most new residents still carry pieces of who they were. Their daily rituals, the mental list of what to do, even if they're small. But over time, those pieces begin to scatter. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins when someone no longer waters their own plants, because there are no plants allowed. When they stop making their bed because housekeeping does it. When no one needs their help anymore. Not with cooking, not with errands, not even with folding towels. One resident, Arthur, used to rise at 6 a.m. every morning. Former postmaster, proud of it. In his house, he'd put the kettle on before the sun, read the paper, and check the front porch just to make sure the world hadn't turned upside down overnight, he used to say. After moving into the facility, the kettle was gone. The porch was gone. The newspaper came late and breakfast was at 8, whether he wanted it or not. By his second month, he stopped getting up early. No point anymore, he said. Nothing to prepare for. And that's what I've noticed. The loss of small responsibilities often takes more from a person than we think. Because purpose in old age isn't always about achievement, it's about contribution. Being needed, being useful, having something, even something tiny, that depends on your presence. When that's removed, some residents begin to slow. Not just physically, but spiritually. A woman named Yvonne, who used to knit blankets for every new baby in her church, stopped knitting altogether when she moved into the facility. No one asked her for anything. No babies to make blankets for. No yarn basket by the chair. I asked if she missed it. She looked at her hands and said, "They used to have a reason. There are physical consequences too. When people stop moving for a purpose, their muscles atrophy faster. When minds aren't invited into meaningful interaction, memory fades, not just from age, but from underuse." One physical therapist told me, "We can teach someone to walk again, but it's harder to help them want to. So what can be done? How do we keep that ember of purpose burning, especially after 80? It doesn't take grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as giving someone a small task. Folding napkins for dinner, helping to set the table, watering a shared plant in the hallway. Other times, it's giving someone a role. Let them be the birthday reminder for their hallway, or the one who chooses the music for Thursday afternoons. Even more than that, we need to keep asking them what they still want to do, not just what they're able to do. One staff member, Sophia, a gentle soul with a voice like warm tea, started asking residents to teach her things. She'd sit beside them during downtime and say, "Can you show me how you used to make that recipe?" Or, "What was your method for sewing hems?" She told me, "When they teach me something, they sit taller, because that's what purpose does. It straightens the spine, it sharpens the eyes. It reminds a person, I am still part of something. I still have something to give." And after 80, that's not just nice to have. It's essential, because people don't wither from age alone. They wither from feeling unneeded. They age faster in places that forget their wisdom. They fall quiet when no one listens for what's still alive in them. If there's someone you love in a nursing home, or if you're preparing for that stage yourself, try to remember this. Don't just ask what they did in their past. Ask what they still wish they could do now. Not everything is possible, but even one piece of purpose, one small light left on, can make all the difference between someone waiting for time to pass and someone still living inside their time. As I look back on the hundreds of faces I've seen in nursing homes over the years, I think about all the quiet strength that lives inside those walls. People often picture nursing homes as places of decline, but that's only part of the story. They are also full of lives that have been long and layered. People who've raised children, fixed engines, taught school, lost great loves, survived war, grown gardens, held grief in their hands and kept going anyway. And yet, in their final chapters, they are too often reduced to routines, diagnoses, and schedules. I've come to believe that the real warning isn't about neglect or cruelty. Those are rare and far easier to detect. What's more common, more invisible, and sometimes more damaging is quiet invisibility. A person who is treated kindly, but not curiously, cared for, but no longer called upon, fed, but rarely asked what still stirs in their heart. These are not dramatic failings. They are slow forgettings of humanity, of dignity, of who someone still is beneath the gray hair and hospital socks. That's why I've stayed in this field for so long. Not to fix what can't be fixed. Not to save people from aging, but to witness it properly. To look someone in the eyes at 85 or 92 and say, I see you, still you. And I say this to you now, whether you're someone approaching that stage yourself or someone walking alongside a parent, a partner, a friend. Aging is not the problem. Disconnection is. Aging is natural. But to age and feel unremembered, that's where the pain grows. So what can we do? Start small. Gently. Speak their name more often. Ask real questions and don't rush the answers. Bring them into decisions, even the little ones. And if they've forgotten something for the third time that day, pause before correcting. Sometimes, the most healing thing you can do is let someone feel safe inside their confusion. Because that's the gift of growing old with grace. Not that we prevent decline, but that we offer presence inside it. We sit with people in their slower seasons, without hurrying them toward cheerfulness or performance. We let silence be a language too. And for those who worry, what if I end up in a place like that? Know this, wherever you are placed, your story still matters. Your softness still matters. And even if the world grows quieter around you, it doesn't mean you've disappeared. You are still here. You are still someone. And to the caregivers, the families, the staff, your role is not just practical. It is spiritual. To help someone feel seen at their most fragile. That's no small thing. That's a quiet kind of sacred. So keep showing up. Keep asking the gentler questions. Keep honoring the person, not just the patient. And if this kind of quiet reflection feels helpful to you, you're welcome to come back anytime. I'll be here.